Howdy, hey everyone. And I don't know a lot about you guys, but Plants vs. Zombies was a key part of my childhood. I remember playing it with my sister and our family iPad when I was like 5-ish, and we would get just super excited whenever we got a new plant. So there's a little bit of Little Yoga Man lore for y'all. Well, I was thinking about this a while ago and remembered, wait a minute, I'm a Fakemon artist. Why not make them into Pokémon? It would definitely give them a fresh coat of paint. So, for a trip down memory lane, I'll redesign 5 plants as if they were Pokemon. 3 from the original cast, and 2 from the sequel, just to keep things interesting. So, starting us off is, of course, the iconic pea shooter. I mean, you can't really do this kind of video without talking about the pea shooter. It's the first plant you think of, and the mascot of the franchise, as well as having an absurd amount of variants. The only problem is how to differentiate it from a real Pokemon, Bellsprout. It has been memed and memed again about how similar they are. So, how will I make them different? Well, a lot of the plants in the original game seem to have a military or weapon theme, and the pea shooter, as well as its upgrades, are no different. Especially the repeater and Gatling pea, so I'm gonna take those into consideration. I mean, it's literally a Gatling gun, so why not lean into that? Also, it's pretty similar to a video game Sentry, with it being a stationary gun, and to differentiate it from Bellsprout, I'll give it different eyes and some different proportions and especially different colors. So I'm just starting off how I usually do, with blobby shapes for the general shape, but for some reason that first part didn't save, so we're just skipping right to the outline. Alright, cool. I gave it little pea arms instead of the leaf arms that Bellsprout has, and instead gave it leaf legs to look like the leafy bits at the bottom of the pea shooter in the game, instead of root-like legs. And it has a less, like, pear-shaped snout, and it's more just like 2 circles overlapped. I tried making the padding on the helmet of the Gatling pea on this, but it ended up just making it look bald. Oh well. So, here is Planter, from Planter, and Turret, the Turret Pokemon. These Pokemon are quite popular with gardeners as a defense mechanism, as they shoot peas at high speeds at anyone who approaches the lawn. Despite not moving much, their aim is impeccable. Its shiny resembles the Snow Pea, one of the other very popular pea shooter variants. I'm glad that I was able to differentiate this guy from Bellsprout enough. I think he's pretty good. Could work as its own Pokemon, considering you didn't take the pea shooter into consideration. Oh well. Now, another incredibly popular and recognizable plant from the game is the Sunflower. But we already have Sunflora, and it's kind of basic, so we'll do another iconic plant, the Potato Mine. I made you think I'd do the Sunflower, didn't I? Personally, I think Potato Mine is pretty similar to another Gen 1 Pokemon, that being Diglett. I mean, they're derpy, brown little guys that hide in the dirt. So to make it into a Pokemon, well, we can make it more weapon-based, just like the pea shooter, and lean into the landmine inspiration. It'll look like a potato cut in half, as well as having the rings on a landmine. It'll have a less cute and derpy design, mostly because I want my art to have more variety, and in a lot of my designs, they just have cute derpy faces already. Finally, since I don't want all the Pokemon here to be grass type, because that would seem redundant, I'll make it a ground type, because it burrows in the ground, as well as the fire type, because it, well, blows up. So I'm starting off with a kind of upside-down reverse potato mine shape. I'm giving it stubby little arms so that it's not just a face, and that little light beeper thing on top of its head. Don't know what that's called, or if it's on a real landmine. It is now going to be a shiny rock to fit in with the ground type. It's a mineral. It's going to look like it's caked in dirt as well as hiding in dirt. There's going to be a bunch of spots that resemble that. So yeah, I'm replacing its buck teeth with these more menacing teeth, and almost Gen 1-esque eyes. So, here is Detator, from Detonate and Tater, slang for potato, the Spud Pokemon. These Pokemon eat roots deep underground. Each Detator has a favorite stone it keeps atop of its head. If stolen or stepped on, it'll detonate, blowing dirt everywhere. It has a signature move called Spit Owl, which is a weaker, ground-type self-destruct that sets up grassy terrain. The name Spit Owl is actually a reference to the flavor text that shows up when the potato mine detonates in the games. I think this guy is pretty charming, pretty goofy. I think it's good. The next plant is one of the most popular ones from the sequel, the lightning reed. It's based on, you guessed it, reeds, specifically cattails, and will obviously be electric type, but just making an electric cattail seems boring, so why not lean a bit into the military weapon theme of the last two and make it into a railgun, at least a video game interpretation of them. Real railguns aren't as recognizable as our games made them out to be. So I'll just extend the leaves out, and the doohickey spike thing, whatever it's called, will shoot out like an electrified bullet. Cool. So I'm starting off with basically the same shape as the lightning reed. It'll be a bit difficult because I knew I wanted, like I said, big leaves and a silly little face, but I couldn't for the life of me decide what I wanted its body to be. At first I wanted it to be almost lightning-esque, like lightning bolt-esque shaped, but that didn't look good. But then after I added the arms, I realized, just give it legs. It's so much easier. So, yeah, giving it lightning reed colors, pretty minty fresh looking. I think it looks pretty good. So, here is Catarc, from cattail, and arc, as in arcing electricity, the reed Pokemon. These Pokemon are quite docile, living peacefully in swamps. However, if agitated, they shoot the needle atop their head with passively gained static electricity. Its shiny is a reference to real cattails. Even though it took a bit to get the body down, I think it looks pretty neat. Now, even though the next one was technically introduced in PvZ2, it is a variant of a pre-existing plant. See, when people think of PvZ plants, they usually think of a quartet of plants, and I've already talked about 3 of them, the pea shooter, potato mine, and sunflower. So pray tell, who is this mysterious 4th plant? Why, it's the walnut. Now I can't just make a walnut into a Pokemon design. Its design is too simplistic. It's literally just a walnut with eyes. But just like the pea shooter, our little nut has a ton of variations. However, the one I'm interested in is the Infinite. It's functionally a weaker walnut that regenerates health passively, but what I'm after is the design. A hologram walnut? Sure, I mean, why not? Why not? I'm funny, I promise. It would be electric steel type, but instead of a hologram walnut, it would just be a hologram wall. I'm starting off with literally just making an Infinite, just with a different shape. It's going to be more wall, rectangular shaped, but just still kind of curved to reference the original. I had an idea to make these like pixel looking things that also look like bricks, so that looks like the real, like a wall, like a real wall. I had the idea that the small thing projecting the giant nut is the real Pokemon, so it's gonna have a more personality-based face, while the hologram is just kind of blank. So, here is Holowall, from Hologram and Wall. Creative, I know. The projection Pokemon, an electric and steel type. The actual body is the small metal creature below the projection. Since it alone is weak, it projects large image above it to ward off predators. Interestingly enough, the projected body is actually tangible. Its ability is Regenerator as a reference to its game functionality, and would have access to Wide Guard as a reference to its plant food ability. I would imagine it being really hard to get rid of in competitive. Super bulky and Regenerator. I just think its blank face is endearing. Now, the last plant for today is so grossly overpowered, it hasn't made a full reappearance since its introduction. Some might have already known who it is. The one, the only, Doomshroom. In the game, when activated, the Doomshroom wipes out most of the lawn, instantly killing most zombies, with the only drawback being that it leaves a crater that cannot be planted on for 3 minutes. While it seems based on atomic warheads, or rather, the mushroom cloud that follows it, I'm gonna make a humanoid mushroom that references post-apocalyptic zombies. Kind of ironic, becoming the very thing he sought to destroy. It's gonna be a ghost poison type, since those seem to be heavily associated with atomic warheads. And no, it's not grass type, because mushrooms are not plants. I don't know why people think that they're fungi. They're not. So I'm gonna be starting off with the basic cap of the Doomshroom, and its body is gonna be actually shaped like an atomic warhead. I'll get to another thing later on. Its legs are made out of mycelium, which is basically mushroom roots or toes. Its face and the chest markings make up the sign for the nuclear symbol. It has dripping spores or toxic sludge around it, and spooky arms. So, yeah, I kind of like its weird colors. It started to have, if you saw it for a bit, it had like weird green radioactive. I don't know. So here is Mycelium from Mycelium, and Nuclear, the atomic Pokemon. Incredibly rare and powerful, these Pokemon secrete a deadly neurotoxin from the top of their heads. This toxin, when lit, causes a huge explosion. Said to be a dead mushroom Pokemon reanimated, it hides itself in the forest as to keep others safe from it. I like this guy a lot. He reminds me of other cool humanoid Pokemon, like Bisharp and Glade. And that's it for today. Did you like it? Who knows, maybe I'll do more nostalgic Pokemon from things from my childhood. Maybe, if this video does good enough. But for now, this is goodbye. See ya, and stay safe.